the real agenda of educating black children?
Well, if the parents in any school district decide to say enough is the hell enough, they would have to listen. But our parents are so quiet, so docile, so into their own little thing, stay in your own lane. Well, there's a pothole in my lane. I gotta change lanes. I ain't standing. There's a big pot. I see the pothole. Okay, I gotta change lanes. Okay, same thing with my children going into a dead end school. I gotta change my schools. Well, parents, they're the community. I mean, they're the social construct of the nation. They just don't know that they're power. The parents have forgotten their power.
You spoke on the nutritional piece too.
Well,
What can they do at home? Because the kid's health is important, the child's health is important as well.
Well, that's when we had parents, when women and brothers, but to a greater degree women, when women felt good about being in the kitchen and cooking. Now it's like you try to stereotype me being in the kitchen.
I don't cook, I don't clean.
The only thing I can make is reservations. If I can't make reservations, I'm going to do that. And so, again, as a first grade teacher, students bring their lunches to me, and I always look in the lunch bag, because our schools had lunch bags. In my school, right? Hot chips, I look in the lunch bag, I see these big old thing of hot chips, them up, and dump. I used to just throw the whole thing in the garbage, but I would just open them up and dump.
The kid went home and told his mother.
No, I told him out.
Oh, okay.
See, I don't trust the child to say it.
She spent money on that.
And then she won't spend no more. Okay? Because, look, that child gets sick, that child has a,
Right.
I can't teach him. I can't teach her.
That's right.
Okay? Real food and nutrition is part of the learning process of our schools. We have to teach that. What they had, Airmark was the food vendor for. Yeah, you remember them?
That's great. That's the state team.
Mystery meat, green hot dogs. Again, the only time you had food that you recognized is on countdown.
Oh, yeah.
You had barbecue chicken, roasted chicken, and the chicken was so good, but it was only on count day. Now, after count day, you went back to normal. But parents don't cook. They too busy. Now, I ain't saying stop at McDonald's, grab something. Look, it's a Happy Meal. Happy you got something to eat. That's what you should be doing. Okay? Those kind of things now, the nutrition. Look at the obesity rate in our young people.
Yes.
Okay? You can tell they're not eating.
Usually you have to be in the 50s or 60s to have some of the conditions they're getting this team.
Man, they got thyroid issues in 5th grade. They got insomniac depression in 6th grade. The mental health, the food leads to mental health. That's part of the educational system. You cannot teach a sick dog.
See, right now, 1 in 3 children in America are born by C-section, meaning they don't get this initial inoculum or coating of bacteria that's been designed to be in the mother's birth canal. Instead, they're first coated with other bacteria on the skin or in the hospital environment, which has contributed to up to a 25% increased risk of obesity, asthma, immune deficiencies, and inflammatory bowel disease in later life. So by delving deep inside the intestinal jungle of bacteria in our intestines, we've begun to find some incredible discoveries that are changing our appreciation for bacteria forever. See, our bellies and brains are physically and biochemically connected in a number of ways. First of all, our intestines are physically linked to our brain through the vagus nerve, which sends signals in both directions. Interestingly, even though this is severed, our intestines can still continue to function fully without a connection to the brain, suggesting they have a mind of their own. Secondly, our brains are made up of 100 billion neurons, which continuously send messages to tell our bodies how to work and behave. Well, interestingly, our guts have 100 million neurons. Thirdly, our microbiomes are the center point of our immune systems, meaning a disturbance down here can cause subtle immune reactions all around the body, which, if prolonged, can affect brain health.
Again, you hear the term wraparound.
Wraparound service.
Wraparound sex. But it's never fully articulated what the hell they're talking about.
Right.
But the whole child's well-being, even hygiene. Remember you went to gym, you had to have gym shoes that you did not wear outside. You had to have shorts to change into. You had a shower in the in the gym office. Now they don't even call it physical ed anymore, they just call it gym. When you just take a basketball and throw it out there and the girls look at the boys play, the boys get all sweaty, even though they take their tie off, but they're still playing in the uniform.
Remember when the kids had the T-shirts and shorts with the schools and parameter, and they had everything on there? The Southwestern was blue, gold shirt and blue shorts.
And you change clothes. That was the key thing.
Yeah, hygiene.
Yeah, see that hygiene.
You didn't go back to class.
And it's funny.
You worked out in here.
It's funny what people nobody's talking about. See, in hygiene also came with sexual education. Sex ed was in that hygiene course too, right alongside of it. Yes, it was. I remember.
We had sex ed when we were in high school.
Well, they cut that out. But one of the biggest problems, remember, education is supposed to solve problems. What's the biggest problem we're facing now? These young mothers having babies. And now with the idea of, we're not going to let you have abortions now. So yes, I went out there and I got see, it's all tied in there together. So now that I made the mistake of having sex because I didn't get sexual education, that goes beyond the STDs and all the other stuff to go along with that part, but the actual impregnation. So now I got a dad. Now this young girl's got pregnancy. I can't get her out. So now her life is about to be whacked. It's not over, but it's going to be challenged. The challenge is going to quadruple with trying to be a parent, a young student at the same time, and you don't have any legal means to have standardized income. Because in social welfare, legal income is key on their boxes that they check.
The real agenda of educating our black children.
Good day, everyone. My name is Victor Gibson. I'm affectionately called Baba Victor Gibson. I am an educator, or retired educator from African Centered School, here at one of the first public African Centered Schools, Malcolm X Academy here in Detroit, Michigan. I'm here today just to speak on the real effect of, or the real issue of educating black children, which in 1990, we can say we started that for public school. So let me kind of digress just a little bit. There's always been a plethora of groups dealing with the independent black institutions. And in that independent black institutions, there have been a lot of folk who've tried to educate, whether what they call homeschool style or community style education for African Americans, because they knew that the real education can only be done, or should only be done, by those who have a vested interest in the instruction of these young students, of our young students. So that was done. There were a lot of drawbacks, not necessarily drawbacks, but there was the whole thing of qualifications and certifications and specializations and all the teaching content areas. So we had that as a little bit of a drawback. And then, of course, there's also been economics. As we, in later years, especially here in Detroit, I can speak on, in Saroma, Ishashule, these independent black institutions here in Detroit, one of their biggest weaknesses was the idea of economics. How do you pay teachers enough to be able to teach our children on a daily basis and also be able to support their families at home? So that was one of the conundrums that, and I really applaud those people who had made that attempt to do such, that sacrifice, I should say, because you really can't live large at that time, doing both, being a farmer and a soldier on the same plantation. So we were looking at it in that guise, but eventually economics really had the impact, and not just the way that they had the schools, but also in the fact that they had to transition. I call them educational refugees, because they had to jump from one building or one area of town to another. Now the staff and the organization could do that because they were adult ed. The infrastructure could do it. But the migration of children from the east side, west side, north end, that became a problem for parents because, again, most of these parents were economically challenged. So to go from one area of town to another, to transport their child from one end to another, became such a difficult challenge. And if anybody who's ever known about transitioning from one school area, from one school to another, you know how difficult that can be. Even as a parent, the child is right around the corner from you, or right around the corner from where you work, but now all of a sudden they're across town, and so if there's any emergencies or anything you have to get down, or even just the average, drop them off, pick them up, and get through traffic in order to do that, that became a super challenge. So the independent black institutions of this type really were hit hard and impacted as we moved on, and that doesn't even include what the states tried to do to decertify these schools, to discourage qualified teachers to go into teaching in these institutions. So when the African-centered movement came about for the 1990s, and the Detroit area said, okay, we want to change the way that dynamic is working. We know that traditionally, if you go to public schools, that each child is worth a certain amount of money in equity, the price it costs to educate a child, as they call it, count day. That's very important. So that regulated the money. So if my mentor, and I really would always praise his name, Dr. Clifford Dean Watson, he and another of the kind, a lot of folks from the Shrine and folks from the black grassroots community, and also for the independent black institutions, got together and did a protest. And eventually went to Cincinnati, and they got the right to educate children, to get the right to educate children under the African-centered umbrella. When that started, at that time I was working in mental health. I was a social worker before I became an educator. I had dealt with Dr. Watson on an earlier scale when he became principal of Peck Elementary School back in the day, and started the first Saturday schools. And so he recruited me, and he remembered me. So when the African-centered schools came online in 1990, I was working at Lafayette Clinic. That's a whole other story. And I went on to congratulate him on having the African-centered curriculum established, and he just grabbed me, if you know anything about Dr. Watson. So Gibson, I need you. And I said, well, Doc, I got a job. I'm just on vacation. I work at Lafayette Clinic. I deal with the mental health issue of black children, well, all children, but black children in particular. Gibson, I know, but we need you right here. So long story short, he recruited me to come into the field of education. He talked to HR. So I started off as what we call an ed tech. I taught a little Spanish and also taught love and discipline and culture. So eventually I got caught up on the ABCs of teaching African-centered education. And that was a long process. Professional development in the beginning of the African-centered schools, in which I must say 3 of us came online, but there were additional schools. But the African-centered male academies came online initially. Of course, we had blowback because we used the word male academies, so what about the females? And
in places like Detroit, we came to the conclusion when we were trying to get African-centered education by way of the 3 male academies, male-centered academies. Dr. Watson, Ray Johnson, and others, and particularly Dr. Watson, Hakeem Anabuti had come here. They were having conferences, and they felt that we needed to have some male-centered academies in order to save black males. There was all this language about the endangered species. The black male was the endangered species. He's more likely to go to prison than to college. And so Dr. Watson said, well, look, we need to do something. We need to set up these academies, these male academies, where we can, based upon African-centered principles, because the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, all of that come from the age groupings in Africa, where they take the males and put them in certain age groups, and the girls and the rites of passage. That's where the Boy Scouts came. The white folks took that idea of male and female from that age grouping in Africa. So we were bringing it back home and saying, well, look, we need to have some male academies. And they said, oh, no, we can't let you do that. That's discriminating against black girls, as if you cared. And so we got sued by I called them the national, at that time I called them National Organization of White Women, but they were NOW organization, National Organization of Women, created Jane Doe, who they said was discriminated against, but it was black women who were saying, hey, we think that's a good idea because we don't have any men at home. If you're going to have some men in those male academies that's going to inspire our boys and give them the education that they need so that our girls can have responsible mates in the future, we down with that. Black women were supportive of that.
So we weren't going to let that be a barrier. At least I wasn't going to let it be a barrier, because we're used to having a strong black male. You don't have a strong black female next to it. So we overcame that little obstacle. And so, but the idea became, the next area of expertise that we had to develop was the idea that we had to train teachers. Just because you were black, like I said, just because you got, because skin folk don't make you kinfolk, or whatever that saying goes. So it holds true for African-centered teaching.